What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Wednesday, August 26th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. Let's take a look at this 3-game main slate. At the point guard position, I like Chris Paul from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Chris Paul has averaged 36.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 44 and 43 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 37 and 40 minutes. He's projected at 39.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value, but I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks that 40 fantasy point marker again here tonight. He's 7,900 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 224 points scored in this game, so I like Chris Paul here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, the other point guard that I like here tonight, I really like his DraftKings price. His FanDuel price is a little bit up there, but I think he can hit value. I like Eric Bledsoe from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Orlando Magic, who have a good defense overall, and they're good versus opposing point guards. But Eric Bledsoe has averaged 30.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He's projected at 32.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 6,400 FanDuel salary, but he's 600 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. So I like Eric Bledsoe here versus the Orlando Magic. Now, if you're playing on FanDuel and you want to pay down a little bit more at the point guard position, I would take a look at Markelle Fultz or DJ Augustin. It's kind of hard to know which one of those guys is going to go off. They seem to be alternating 30-plus point fantasy games here. Last game, Fultz scored 35 fantasy points. The game before that, DJ Augustin scored 34 fantasy points. So it's just kind of like a 50-50 chance there which one is going to go off. So I like DJ Augustin here tonight at 4,800 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. But Markelle Fultz is 400 less. He's only 5,100 on DraftKings, so he makes a pretty nice DraftKings play. Either one of those guys can get it done for you here tonight. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. So of course you got James Harden. You're gonna have to pay up for him, but this guy's got 70 plus point fantasy upside here. But let's take a look at some other players here. I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has averaged 34.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. Take a look at this guy's last 3 games. He scored 40, 54, and 43 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's played 43, 48, and 37 minutes in those games. So monster minutes for this guy, and he's projected at 38.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 7,300 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 224 points scored in this game, so I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, the other shooting guard that I like, this is a FanDuel play for me only. I love this FanDuel price, I like Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Orlando Magic, who have a good defense overall and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing shooting guards. Chris Middleton has averaged 35.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He's projected at 35 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.3 times value. He's $6,600 FanDuel salary, but he's $1,200 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game, so I like Chris Middleton here versus the Orlando Magic. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Orlando Magic, who have a good defense overall and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing small forwards. Giannis has averaged 56.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 38% usage rate. Take a look at this guy's last 3 games. He scored 62, 66, and 53 fantasy points. He's projected at 58.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $11,300 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game, so I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Orlando Magic. Okay, a value play for you here at the small forward position. I like Daniel House from the Houston Rockets playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle-of-the-pack defending opposing small forwards. Daniel House has averaged 21.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 14% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 32, 26, and 34 fantasy points, and he's played 38, 41, and 38 minutes. He's projected at 27.6 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.8 times value. So this might be my favorite play of the slate on FanDuel because he's only $4,800 FanDuel salary and he's $700 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 224 points scored in this game, so I like Daniel House here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Robert Covington from the Houston Rockets playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing power forwards. Robert Covington has averaged 29.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He's projected at 29.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $5,700 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 224 points scored in this game, so I like Robert Covington here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. In a value play for you at the power forward position, I like Gary Clark from the Orlando Magic playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing power forwards. Now, Gary Clark, he's only averaged 9.2 fantasy points per game on the season, but that's because he was only playing 13 minutes per game with an 11% usage rate. But let's take a look at his last 3 games of the playoffs. He's played 26, 34, and 29 minutes, and he scored 20, 26, and 19 fantasy points. So he's projected at 22.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 4,400 FanDuel salary and 200 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game, so I like Gary Clark here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Nikolai Vucevic from the Orlando Magic playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they've been middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Nikolai Vucevic has averaged 41.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He scored 60, 32, and 47 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 38, 35, and 34 minutes. He's projected at 46.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 8,600 FanDuel salary and 600 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game, so I like Nikolai Vucevic here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And the other center that I like, especially on FanDuel, is Jusuf Nurkic from the Portland Trailblazers playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers. Jusuf Nurkic has averaged 43.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 41 fantasy points in 27 minutes last game. He was coming off of a subpar performance for the previous 2 games, so he stepped it up. He's got 40 to 50 point upside, and he's projected at 37.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 7,500 FanDuel salary and 1,100 more on DraftKings. So I like Jusuf Nurkic here versus the LA Lakers. Now, if you're looking to pay down at the center position here, there's a couple of mid-range plays that are pretty decent here. Steven Adams, actually, I would prefer Brook Lopez from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Orlando Magic. He's projected at 27.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 5,500 FanDuel salary and 300 less on DraftKings. So if you're looking for a lower salary center, take a look at Brook Lopez here versus the Orlando Magic. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.